Right. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Control Command. We are looking at pipeline to profit today. And the whole goal here is to help you with your lead conversion, helping you convert more opportunities with command. Because I see a big missing part of a lot of agents' businesses is being able to handle the leads that come in. The first thing you learn as an agent is you have to get down your lead generation. How are you going to find people that want to buy or sell homes? But the next step is actually converting them to clients and not just dreams. And that's what we're here for today is how do you convert and not let people fall through the cracks where they tell us something at 6 months ago and then we get busy and we forget, or we don't get back to them in time. We end up seeing them close on Facebook with another agent and our heart breaks. And that's what we're trying to avoid here today. So we have to talk about one piece of housekeeping, the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Please follow all guidelines and stay compliant with the TCPA. There are some pretty hefty fines that can happen here. I don't want any of you all getting fined, but it is your responsibility to understand and comply with the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. We have some great resources here at Keller Williams so that you can understand this stuff. Please reach out to me if you need any of those resources. I'm happy to share them with you. All right, that is done. And for today's agenda, we're going to start off with some models from the Keller Williams curriculum, the MREA book, the Shift book. We're going to bring those in and talk about moving from E to P. And then we're going to look at the path to a transaction, the path of what you know it as well as the path of what it looks like through command when you're using a tool like Opportunities. And then finally, we're going to spend a little time building your pipeline out. Throughout the whole class, we're going to be working towards that goal, but we'll actually put it down on paper in the third section of the class. And then we'll finish up with some resources that I've shared and will share throughout the class and answer any questions that you have at that point. I will ask you for an evaluation at the end of class. They are very simple and only take about a minute to do. But I read every one that is submitted to me, and it really helps me get better at my craft when you give me some feedback around what you thought about the class. And we'll get into more of that later, but just wanted to plant that seed now so that you know that I'm going to ask you for that evaluation. All right, now take a look at the picture on the screen here. The purposeful approach is what you see it titled. And we talk about, at Keller Williams, we talk about the 6 personal perspectives. One of my favorite classes to teach, to take, wonderful class. And one of those perspectives is moving from E to P. Because you see a lot of us start off in real estate with only our talent. And many of you are very talented at doing this business. But at some point, your natural ceiling of achievement is reached. At some point, doing the same things you've been doing are only going to get you the same results. And most of us want to grow our business. We want more to be able to grow our business, grow our income, and reach the dreams that we have ourselves. And this is what today's class really comes down to. Moving from E to P, the actual words they use are moving from entrepreneurial, which many of us are, to the purposeful, doing the things that don't come natural to us, but we know help our business. And to simplify it, I like to just talk about it as from easy to painful. It's easy to be natural. Your natural talent just feels like you're doing what you would do. But when you move to purposeful, there's a little bit of pain there. There's learning, there's skill building, there's failure. And you have to be okay with that because failing forward is how we get to the places we want to go. And we see we're going to do this system right here. Number 1 is focus. And today we're bringing your focus right to your lead conversion. And when we bring that focus, we're going to look at a model that helps us understand where we're going. We're going to look at the model in the next couple of slides. Then we're going to apply a system. And that system is what you're going to start building today. And you're going to have to finish it out on your own or with me as a one-on-one. But when you focus, bring in the models, follow a system, that's when the breakthrough happens to get you through that ceiling. And then at some point, it's going to start feeling easy again, that new system, and you're going to hit another ceiling. And then you're going to add more systems. You're going to add more models. You're going to create a bigger business and break through that next ceiling because this does not end. You're always going to be reaching a natural ceiling of achievement, and you break through that with the focus model systems that we have here at Keller Williams. And so I bring up the very first model that helps us understand what we're doing here. This model comes out of the MREA book in the lead generation model. And on page 188, it describes, it describes the 4 laws of the database. To be honest, it actually says the 4 laws of lead generation in the book. They've changed the title to 4 laws of the database, which I think is more appropriate. And it's very simple. Build your database, feed it every day, communicate systematically, and service all leads. And today specifically, we are working on communicating systematically. And systematically is the word that trips people up. What does it mean to be systematic? Think about that for a moment. Tell me more about robot.
It's like, you know what you gotta do every day, no matter what the result is. It's the same process, day in and day, robotic.
And the key there is that we know what's going to happen. That's the key to being systematic, because it doesn't have to be a full-blown 30, 40, 50-day system of, oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do every day. You might get there. You should get there. But where it starts normally is I make a call and then I set a follow-up. And then I make a call and I set a follow-up. So I always know when I'm going to talk to that person next, or I'm going to communicate to them in any way, talk, text, DM, social media, like, comment. There's so many ways to communicate these days. You need to bring focus, because if you try and do it all, you're not going to do it all for everyone. But if you are specific and focused on how you are going to run your system, how you're going to know what's going to happen in the future, makes it so much easier to do it at a bigger scale than just the ones that are in front of you. Too often we just wait for deals to come in. Too often we are passive in our business and not active in finding leads. And once you get those leads, we might drop them because we've done it so much or we have so many. And today we're going to be focused in on that. When you've gotten a lead, what happens when they say, I want to buy or sell a home? What happens when somebody in your database says, hey, Steven, my lease is up in January. I want to buy a home. But if they tell me that now, are my systems in place to make sure that I stay in relationship with that person so that I can actually be their agent? Because they're going to buy, whether it's with me or someone else. When their lease is up, they want to buy. It's my job to follow up with them. It's my job to give enough value that they don't even think about working with anybody else, because they're like, Steven's already done all this for us. This is what he does when we're not paying him. What's going to happen when we pay him? They've already built that trust and relationship with me. That's lead conversion. Because all of you are pretty good at, if somebody tells you they want to go see homes this weekend and they got a pre-approval, y'all are good at that. So good at being the hot buyers and hot sellers. I need to list in a month. Great, A, B, and C needs to be done. Let's meet here. Let's do this. Y'all are good at that. The part where I see agents struggle is when it's more than 3 months out, when it's 6 months, 8, 9, a year out. And that lead falls off because we get busy. We get busy with our active business. And then we're sad when we don't get that business. And this is the model you have to understand. This is a larger model, because today, really, we're focused just in number 3, but we're going to walk through the whole thing, because this is an important part of any service business. Any service business. Real estate is not unique in this. But let's start at the top. Look at where it says the 1 in the red circle. You see right up here, lead capture. And simply, all that means is you now have the information for some person that you didn't have before. You've captured their information, and that might be done through prospecting. That might be done through marketing. It depends, and you should be doing both. And we have classes on those things as well. Today's class, not on lead gen. But we capture their information, and they get put into our database at that point where they're a lead. And the way we define a lead is someone who we have information for, but we don't have a relationship with. That is a lead. And that's why you see they all live in your database, leads. And our goal is to bring them to be a contact, which is a contact is someone that we have a relationship with. Simple as that. And you're going to run that relationship management. I have a great video called Stay Top of Mind that we taught last month on the YouTube channel that goes through your relationship management for leads and contacts. And with the goal to convert those people into clients. And that's what this green section that I have highlighted here is all about, preparing contacts for conversion. When someone raises their hand and say they want to buy or sell in the next 12 months, that's when they move into this third phase where we're preparing them for conversion. Salud. And then the goal, of course, is to take them from preparation to conversion to actually convert them to a deal, provide such great service that they come back and buy or sell from us in the future, and they refer other people to us, and those referrals go right back into the top of the funnel. That's the model we're playing. That's the game we want to do, is bring people into the top, connect with them as leads to convert them to contacts. When they express interest in doing business, we prepare them to convert to a client, and then we service them at the bottom to get them what they want. And then the process starts over again. That's the lead generation model. It took me years to figure this out, because you can see it and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. But when you have to think about it in, well, how does all of this work with my tool that I use that is Command? And like I said, we're going to spend 2 hours today on this. We spent 2 hours last month just on this. Lead capture is a little simpler. That one doesn't need a full class. But you can see that this is not simple. It is not. It takes effort to build your system, but I promise you, this is what your consumers experience and what they're going to come back to you for, is the value you provide through this model. That's it. Some people are going to work with you because they love you. They just know your personality and they're like, no, Isaac, like, he's the funniest guy I know. Of course, I'm going to have him be my realtor. But some people, we're going to have to convince them a little bit more. When you start moving your business from mostly buyers to more listings, you have to fight a little bit harder for listings. You generally don't compete for buyers. We compete for listings all the time with our peer groups. Buyers, they're a little bit more, oh, he's funny. I wouldn't mind hanging out with them and showing homes with them. That's a lot of new buyers' expectations. They don't have a lot that they expect. They just like, buy me a house, like help me buy a house. That's all I need, and make it an enjoyable experience. This is a never-ending process where you're going to improve these things. You're going to execute them. You're going to fail. You're going to succeed, and you're going to build a system that works for you and your business. And I love this quote from Gary Keller that comes out of the Shift book, because it really sets the tone for today's class. The effort you give to converting leads must match the effort you give to generating leads. So if you're spending 10 to 12 hours a week doing open houses, making your database calls, calling expireds, calling FSBOs, and you're spending 12 hours a week doing that, well, what Gary tells us is we should be giving the same amount of effort for our lead conversion. Now, it might not mean a direct 1-to-1 hour ratio, but I'll tell you, when I was a full-time agent, I lead generated 6 days a week. And 2 days a week in the afternoon, I also had my time blocks for follow-up or conversion, where people have told me that they want to buy or sell. And I knew every Tuesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon was my days to connect with the people that have already told me that. And I suggest you implement a similar strategy. Be systematic in your schedule. Have these time blocks in there so that you know that they are going to get done. Because we're going to talk a lot about tasks today, and these tasks aren't popping up on your phone like it's your iPhone. Sorry, y'all. It's not happening. But you will get a reminder that you have some amount of tasks for that day, and you need to make time to get those tasks done. That's my Tuesday and Thursday follow-up blocks, are the times that I get my tasks done for opportunities. Because all my other tasks that are contact tasks, those get done in my lead generation time. And we have a great resource pack for y'all today. You can scan this. I will also be emailing it out to you with the recording of the video, the resources, the slide deck, all of that information that you see today, you're going to see in here. We are going to be using the opportunity checklist creator. Here, Isaac, let me get you a couple. We're going to be using this one today. There's a filled out example just to show you what it might look like. But here's the real value. These two spreadsheets that you see, example 1 and example 2, these are full-on systems that they have already created. Now, I'll tell you, you're not going to be able to copy and paste this, because you're going to see some of this and go, what the hell does that mean? That's okay. This is from different states. They use different language. But you're going to get a good idea of what a full system for their pipeline, what that will look like. And we have a simple one with the KW example. And then the first one, the example 1, is a lot more complex. And then finally, you'll also see a spreadsheet in there labeled how-to resources. Everything you see today in the class, and even stuff you don't see, I have put together different articles that explain it step by step. Some of these are videos that when you click the link, it goes to a video showing you exactly how to do it. And there are some other videos from KW down at the bottom. They have a similarly titled class from Pipeline to Profit, and they have a couple of videos in there as well. So plenty of learning and support for all of you. You can scan the code, get it on your phone so that you have it, and you can go back to it in the future. So before we move on, any questions so far about the models or what we're going to be getting into today? Pretty straightforward so far, right? Yeah. Pretty good. Okay. Now let's get into what y'all know. We're going to talk about a scenario. The scenario many of you will be familiar with. Is there anybody not running open houses here? Good. Are you? I thought so. Let's go into this scenario. We're going to talk about the path to a transaction from capture to close, what it looks like. Then we're going to talk about what it looks like in command. It's a little different, but very similar. So we host an open house and we capture the information for the person on the screen. We capture their information. And of course, right after the open house, we're going to call them, talk to them, try and build the relationship up, get some motivation around why they're moving, where they want to move, when they want to move. We're going to get all that information. If they have an agent. Oh, and I want to share this with y'all. Oh, sorry, had a question in the comments. Kiana, yes, I can do that. Let me see if I can do it. Oh gosh. Let me try real quick, Kiana. Tab, drive.google. You guys are going to see the behind the scenes. All right. No, it's not what I wanted. Okay, we're going to go quick, guys. Sorry about this. From pipeline to profit and get that link. Okay, here we go. Now we're cooking with gas, y'all. All right, there we go. Links in the chat. Oh, I put that as a private message. Let me switch it so everybody can get it too. Oh boy, main chat, paste, boom. Try again, paste. There we go. Now we got it. Okay, back to our scenario. We've captured our lead. We've given our first call. We put them on a nice little email drip. We start emailing them. It's been 3 months. We call them again. And at that point, they go, hey, Steven, sorry we haven't really gotten back to you. Some things changed, but we're on track to buy a home in 6 months. We want to get a home in January. After the new year, that's when we want to try and move. We go, great. Awesome. Now, when someone raises their hand, that is a trigger point for the system. And we'll see what that looks like in command in a moment, but let's keep going through the path. So then, of course, we call them again. If they're going to buy in 6 months, we're going to call them, but now I'm calling a little bit more often. Instead of waiting 3 months to call, I might call every 6 weeks. I might call every 8 weeks. I'll just tell you, the frequency increases. When someone tells me that they want to move, I'm going to talk to them more. And that might be through text, through email, phone calls. You get to choose the methods of how you communicate your value. And underline that in your notes. Value is the key. The notes you're not writing. The trick here is not about how many times, how many emails, how many phone calls. You'll get lost in the minutia there. What I want you to focus on is value. If somebody tells you you want to sell, or they want to sell in 6 months, what value can you provide them between now and when they want to actually sell? What value do you have for a buyer that wants to buy in 6 months? We're gonna brainstorm some of those ideas in a minute. But let's continue down the path. We're increasing our frequency. Call, email. We call again and they go, Steven, so now we're gonna buy in about 2 months. I go, great. I think we should sit down now. And when I say sit down, in these specific examples, an appointment means an agency appointment, not coffee at Starbucks to chat about buying. Those are important parts of the process. If your process is taking somebody out for drinks so that you can get to know their needs better, perfect. But if you're not presenting the agency contract, it does not count as the appointments I'm talking. Because you're not getting hired if you don't get anything signed. Because that person could go walk to their uncle's brother's cousin that just got their license and go buy with them because they said they'd do it for 1% instead of 2% or 3%. Right? You'll deal with this all the time. And it will be an issue if you don't show the value. If they don't see your value, they'll be like, yeah, I'll go use the guy for 1%. If he's going to kick back his commission to me so I can make it easier to be affordable, people will do that all day. But if you have more value, price becomes an issue in the absence of value. Justin says that all the time. Our team leader, Justin, for my YouTube watchers here in the future. And so we set the appointment. And again, this is the agency appointment. I'm going to take them in. I do them here. I'm not going to your house. I'm not going to Starbucks. You're going to come to my office and we're going to sit down and do a formal buyer presentation. And that formal buyer presentation goes through the contract, goes through my buyer stuff. That's a whole different class that our coaches teach all the time. But our goal is to get that agency signed. Because once they sign that agency, they're now a client, not a consumer. A client of mine is somebody that I'm going to make money off of if they buy or sell. Not all of them do, but most of them do. Question?
Just get that month out, or I mean, how far out do you try to get that agency agreement? If they're saying, hey, I am going to buy, just, they gave you that time.
You want to answer?
You get it a year ahead, I mean.
Yeah, like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, I sit down with them, right? Like, the first thing that I do is I'm sitting down with them, meeting with them, like, figuring out where they're at in the situation, But, like, they could have credit for us in like 6 months, like, but if you don't get the agency agreement, like, right away, like, they can go with anybody else, But I feel like once I have the agency agreement now, like, I can help them, and they're more willing to stick with me than to break the contract, because we already kind of have like a commitment, so I feel like it's easier to do that. So me personally, like, the appointment, I'd rather have the appointment done and over with now, and then I can focus on providing value to this.
So for those on Zoom, Carlos asked, well, what's the timeline look like? When should we be getting that buyer appointment in? 2 months before they want to buy, 1 month, 3 months? And Isaac said anywhere up to a year. And I agree with Isaac, because those contracts we generally write for a year long anyway. And I personally, they're not going to pay me anything if they don't buy or sell. There are agents that write into their contract, you're going to pay this or this if something doesn't happen. I don't, because I'd rather have the security of knowing I have a client than having $600 of an admin fee that they're going to have to pay. Because that will stop people from signing your agreement early, is that they think they might have to pay if they don't get what they want, which is a home or a sold home. And so really, I mean, it's something that you have to manage on a case-by-case basis. Some people you're going to want to get with real early and get them started, especially first-time home buyers. I want to get them in early. I want to get them in so I can start educating them more. They get a better experience when they have more time with me. Somebody who's bought and sold a few different homes might be a little different situation, but yeah, I would say up to a year, but as soon as it seems appropriate. If they're blowing you up, asking questions all the time, hey, we should sit down and just meet. I know you're not going to buy for another 6 months, but you seem like you have a ton of questions, and I'd love to just bang these out. Let's sit down. This is a meeting that I may or may not do the agency agreement in, depending on how it goes, but usually I'm not scheduling meetings that aren't agency agreement meetings. So here we are, they've signed our agreement. Yes, they've hired me to be their buyer's agent. And then we start doing some showings. They go into the active phase of a transaction. And they start showing some homes. And at some point, they put an offer in on a home and they get it under contract. It's accepted by the seller. And boom, about 30 days later, that's when we make our money. And this period, how long does this normally take? Oh, from capture to close, what's the normal saying that we hear? 90 days. 90 days. The work you do today will pay you out in 90 days. What I'm hearing from some of our top agents is this market, it feels more like 6 months. The work you do now pays you off in 6 months, because this is a skill-based market, y'all. This is a market that you have to be good in. You cannot just be an amateur and expect to do 20 deals this year. Amateurs aren't getting there. Yeah, they'll close 4 homes, 6 homes. Great. Like, cool. I'm glad you got your vacation paid for. And but this is my business. This is my livelihood. This is my income. And I'm not playing like that. We're playing like this. And right now it's taking 6 months for this. And I tell you that because when you're setting up your systems, you need to be prepared and know that it might take 6 months from capture to close. It might take 12 months for some people. Set your systems up so it's robust enough to handle these situations. If a buyer wants to buy in anywhere from this month to 12 months from now, or a seller who wants to sell this month or 12 months from now, your system needs to be ready for that. And the good news is Command is built for that. The tool we're going to talk about today is built for that. And let's see how this translates. We have that same timeline, and we're going to translate some of the language. This piece here from open house to where they raise their hand, that's called lead generation. That's what we all do, or should be doing. Your lead generation time, this is what it looks like. You're connecting with open house leads. You're following up with them, emailing them, calling your database, calling expires. These are all lead gen activities. Once they raise their hand, they move to cultivation, where we're going to cultivate that person who has risen their hand. The opportunity to do business is what they have just expressed. And now I move them to cultivate. And then, of course, the next one is they move into the appointment section. And then, just like you saw before, they go into the active section. And this is our focus for today's class, is we're only focused here because Command does have a full system for under contract. It's all in the opportunities tool as well. Is there anybody in here not using a transaction coordinator for their business? Not using it. Good. And often agents use only this part of Command. And by agents, I mean agents TCs. They're in there using opportunities and closing the deals. And the agents are missing out on all this part of the tool. So I'm happy y'all are here today because you're not going to be missing out. But if you're using a TC, you probably don't need to build out the system for under contract. Your TC has already done that. They already know what they're doing. They don't need Command. They have their checklist and systems already built. That's why you hired them. They know what they're doing. If you need a good TC, I have one that I love. I would be happy to share his information if you ever need one. All right. And so when we zoom in here, Isaac, I need you. When we zoom in here, we see cultivate, appointment, and active. And I want to zoom in even further, just to the cultivate section, because this is where we have to start thinking how we're going to communicate, because this is when communication changes. Lead generation, call my database, open houses, I have a system for all that. But once they raise their hand, this is where a lot of systems are missing. And so what I want you to do is on a piece of paper, I want you to write down first 3 action items that you would do during this time. And an action item might be call monthly. An action item might be send some listings to them. An action item might be send a gift. Lots of different things, and I want you to brainstorm a little bit right now. Write down 3 actions that you would do after someone has risen their hand saying they want to buy, but before you get the appointment. Go ahead and write them down. And then when you finish with the buyers, write down 3 for sellers. Oh, it says buyers and buyers on here. Gosh darn it. I swear I did not write that. We're going to fix it. It's driving me crazy. There we go. I don't know how I didn't realize that yesterday. Taught this class yesterday too. So 3 action items, write them down. We're going to use these and we're going to share them out now so that everybody can hear them and get some ideas for later in the class. So take about 1-2 minutes. We'll say 2 minutes. Write down 3 for buyers, 3 for sellers. Isaac, we're writing down 3 action items for buyers in this time period, from raising hand for the appointment, and 3 action items for sellers. Action items being like email, phone call, give them this, give them a CMA, give them this. Send a card, take them for a drink, buy them a coffee. So this one, Not yet on there. This is the brainstorm. Do not that. Because we'll write the actual system stuff down later. All right, about 1 more minute. Get some seller ideas down. If you don't get all 3, that's okay. We're going to be sharing some out so you can get some ideas, and I want you to write down the ideas that you hear that you like or want to do yourself. Thirty more seconds. All right, let's share some of these out. Let's start with buyers. Let's throw out some ideas on how we can follow up with our buyer after they raise their hand and say, I want to buy in 6 months. Toss some stuff out at me.
Send a text.
Send a text. What's the frequency? How often? Every 3 weeks, maybe. Good, love it. Could we do like 6 weeks? Exactly. We got to stay top of mind, right? And text messenger is a great way to say, hey, I was thinking about you. Y'all need anything from me? You have any questions? It's a great text to receive because most of the time they're like, no, Stephen, we're all good. Thanks for checking in. You're like, boom, next one, right? I move on to the next one. It doesn't have to be this grandiose, like, oh, 7,000 word email telling them all the process of buying in this market and every deed. You don't need to do that. It can just be a, hey, thinking of you guys. I was just showing a home in a neighborhood that we talked about. Thought of you. What's up? How y'all doing? It can be simple stuff. What else? Text messages, frequently text messaging them. Home search, brilliant, right? Buyers, what do people love to do online? Look at homes. They love to window shop. And when you can say, a man after my own heart. Isaac said, text them the app. And I would say text them the app and put them on a saved search so they can check it in the app. Because the saved search will just push it to them and say, hey, new property just came on in the area you want, in the price range you want, with the number of beds and baths you want. The app is a huge key, especially for your buyers. The app is huge. And then it makes your follow-up even easier. Hey, did you know you can do this with the app? And you show them something cool. Hey, did you know that this home is doing an open house this weekend? I'd love to take you if you want to do a private showing. What else? Let's get another one. If you're on Zoom, feel free to unmute and you can share with us as well.
Trending.
Yeah, market updates are wonderful. It's so much easier to tell a buyer you can't afford here by showing them what the real estate looks like in that area instead of telling them you can't afford this area. Because if somebody's like, hey, I want to live in South Bomar, you're like, great, that's awesome. Let me put you on the neighborhood nurture. That's one of the keys here is your neighborhood nurture email with command sends them a market update and all current listings for a neighborhood automatically when you put them on, and it does it every 2 weeks or every month, depending on what frequency you want. But it sends them the stats, average days on market, average list price. And so when they see in South Bomar, the average list price is like $1.8 million, and I start sending them those properties and those stats, and then their qualification comes back at 750,000, they go, oh, Bomar's not in our range. I don't have to tell them that because that's a sad thing to have to tell somebody like, it's going to be tough to find something at 750 in this area where most homes sell for over 1.5 million. And so it makes my job easier. Neighborhood nurture or market updates.
I figure with the market. Hey, maybe we got into house now before they go out of.
Exactly. Builds urgency. And this is when I say value, this is the value I'm talking about. Y'all know what the market's going to do. Y'all have a better idea than the public does because the public gets a bunch of things thrown at them about the real estate market. And we know that there's a lot more truth to be told about the real estate market and not just what 9 News is talking about or Fox 13, Fox 31. We can provide that value here. And so let's talk a little bit about sellers as well. What value? Oh, sorry, before we do that, I hope you wrote down some of those ideas. Those ideas are key in building your system. You might use all of them, you might use some of them, but I want you to be paying attention and writing these down. Let's talk sellers. If this was a seller on here, what would we be communicating or what action items would we have between when they tell us they want to sell in 6 months, but before the appointment? Is that a cricket I hear? No? Nobody? Well, I'm going to give you the easy one. Yeah. HomeBot. Tell us more, Isaac. HomeBot.
Market, area, neighborhood, all the stats, and then like if they put in their own like information about the homes.
Love it.
And then also the vibrant
Neighborhood nurture. Yeah. So if you didn't hear Isaac on Zoom there, he said HomeBot, which is a fantastic third-party tool that does have a cost, but it's awesome. I definitely say check it out. It's great for sellers and homeowners. He also mentioned the neighborhood nurture here as well. And I agree. Every seller I put on the biweekly neighborhood nurture for their neighborhood so that they can see the stats for the same reason. Because if they think their home is worth $1 million and all the stats are telling them every other week that the average home price is $600,000, it's going to help you set those expectations when you come down to that price conversation. HomeBot? Neighborhood nurture? That's built into Command. Yeah, that's in Command. Yes, yeah, there's a lot. So definitely understand. What else can we provide? There's a really big one that we always do for sellers before they sell. We give them a CMA, comparable market analysis. That is something that we usually do for all potential sellers. That should be something in your system. But give us one more way to follow up or provide value to a seller. And then I got one if it doesn't get mentioned. I love, this is a relationship business. Build the relationship. Take them to lunch. Hey, I want to buy you lunch. When are you free? That's all the text message needs to say. And they'll be like, hey, we can do Thursday. Great. You have a preference of food. You have dietary, like y'all can take it. You know how to schedule a lunch.
Relationship with them personally. No, they can trust me when.
And that's it. And if it, like I said, these are important parts of your system. That's not the appointment I'm talking about, but it can be part of your process. And for some people, they don't want to talk on the phone. They don't want to talk on the phone ever. They just want to send a text. Hey, can you meet me here for coffee? And then you go sit down and have a great conversation. If that's you, great. I was a phone call agent. I was in the office on the phone all the time. I didn't have time to go take people to lunch. I was working. And so I'm still going to bring the value and send you communications, but I'm not going to take you to lunch. That was not me. And that's okay. Top agents do, and top agents don't do that. It's again, and it feels like it slows down the scenario as well. When you can pause and say, hey, let's just go get lunch. Maybe we'll talk about real estate. Maybe we won't. It's not what I want to take you to lunch. I probably wouldn't say square dancing. You're not going to get a lot of conversations in for square dancing. But Isaac, if you find success in your system, please let us know. One that I'd love to mention is there's a couple of SmartPlans already in the library that you can go in and download, and they're like seller prep. The first email is like preparing the outside of your home to sell. And it says, you should be working on landscaping. So, and homes that have nice landscaping sell for so much more. Here's the kicker. And then I list 2 or 3 landscaping companies for them to talk to. Now I'm providing value. This is value, because saying, yeah, you should paint your house, small value. Saying, yeah, you should paint your house, and here's 3 awesome painters I've worked with. Talk to them. Here's my favorite one. That's value. Because now all they have to do is make a phone call. They don't have to do research. They don't have to find somebody they trust because they're going to trust you to provide them with quality vendors. And you can think the next email could be something else about cleaning your house, the flooring, paint, staging. There's so many different ways that we can prep a listing or at least give them the information because I'll tell you, they don't do it. You send them all these emails and they don't go, oh my gosh, I'm calling them today. You call them in a couple of months because you should be calling them still, emails and text, but you should be having some one-to-one, face-to-face, or just voice-to-voice conversations with them. But when you send them this stuff, hey, did you get my email? Hey, did you see the market, or did you see the days on market for your neighborhood went down this month or went up this month? Those little things can really bring the value and go, oh, I didn't see it. I saw your email. I didn't look at it in detail, Stephen. Yeah, days on market right now is up a week from where it was last year. Are you sure the timeline is still now, or do we want to try and get this done sooner? Right? You get to be the advocate when they start seeing the data and the value here. So buyer actions, seller actions, your system is composed of these different actions that you want to do. And you might put down 3 or 4 things, try them out for 10 or so buyers, and you go, you know, the text message I thought was going to be good didn't really work. I need to find something different. Or you say, you know what, this is good, but I want to add in more. I want to put together a buyer prep email where I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. So I'm going to put together a down payment assistance email or a string of emails that helps them understand down payment assistance and credits and seller credits and concessions and all these words that we use every day, but buyers and sellers might only use once every 10 years. How many times do you say earnest money as an agent? And how many times do you say it when you're in the public? Because I can tell you, I never heard the words earnest money before I bought a home, and I wouldn't have heard them again until I bought my next one. But I got into real estate about 3 months after I bought my home. I was like, I could do this. You made how much? I could do that. Goodbye teaching. No more math. All righty. So here's the fun part. Let's take a look at that same path, but in Command. And so we're going to open up Command. And here, I want you to be able to take some notes here. You might take some things down, but I really want you absorbing and watching where I'm clicking, watching what's happening on the screen and taking this in. Because like I said, the resource pack has step-by-step instructions for a lot of this. So you're not going to need to memorize this. I want you to absorb this, not memorize. And so we're going to go through a full scenario, a little different than last time. So here, how many people run DTD2 for their lead generation? Anybody do DTD2? Isaac? Raise your hand. He does. I know he does because I forced him to like 6 months ago. He said, stop the excuses, do the work. And how'd it go? Mm-hmm. Yep.
So they had an open house and looked like they were able to see it. They called me that same day when I couldn't see it. So the agent showed it to them. We went under contract. 2 days after that, we closed in 14 days. Cash.
Birthday card.
Oh, birthday.
From birth, y'all.
Yeah. And so, they were like, but like you sent the birthday card. It was like, we didn't think you were gonna send it, and like totally forgot about it. But then like I remember that we gave your contact information, whatever. Which is like we really only chose you because of the birthday card. So I was like, oh, shit.
And there's some deep psychological selling happening in there. And when Isaac asked them for their information, because he asked them by saying, can I send you a birthday card? And they said, yes. And he said, great, where do I send it? He gets the address. He goes, and when's your birthday? He gets their birthday. And then 9 months later, they forget about that conversation until the card shows up. But when I tell someone I'm going to do something and then it happens, what does that build?
Trust.
That's what you were doing, is building trust with them. Because if you didn't send the card, they wouldn't have trusted you. They said they would have forgotten just about you completely and been like, we'll find, my uncle's brother's cousin that's going to be an agent. We'll go use them, right? We'll use a familial connection that I can trust through the family instead of using one that I trust because of the value that they've given. And so DTD2, just a quick explanation. Here it is on the board. It's just a system to help you organize your calls to your database. This week is A&W. So let's look at my A&W calls. So I'm going to pull up my A&W. I have a pretty slick system set up, so mine's already kind of ready to go. You're not going to have that in there by default, but if you'd like to see how to set up your DTD2 tags and smart views like you see so you can pull them up that easily, go check out my videos on Control Command. I got a whole series just on DTD2. Would love for you to go check that out or meet with me one-on-one to get some of this done. But let's say it's A&W week. So I start making my phone calls. And this is how I like to do it. I just go right in here at the top of the list. I call Bruce. He answers. I come over here. I add the activity, made a call, and chatted for 5. Will check in later this year. Right? He doesn't want to buy. I'm bad at typing. And so I go on to the next contact. And Chewbacca helped us yesterday. And so let's use, I don't know who Wade Wilson is. Let's use the Wicked Witch. Perfect. The Wicked Witch, I call her. And we talk and she says, I want to buy in 6 months. My lease is up in December. I want to buy a home, or my lease is up in January. I want to buy a home after my lease is up. And I go, Wicked, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. I'm going to follow up with you in a couple of months. Is that okay? We're gonna chat in about a month or so. I'll give you a call and just see if everything's on as it should. And they go, yep, that's great, Steve. And I so awesome. First thing I do is I record that conversation. Call, wants to buy when her lease is up in December, wants to be in a home by January. And I hit add activity. But now, remember, they just rose their hand. And they tell me they want to buy or sell. They just rose their hand. This is the trigger. When someone raises their hand, I come in and I click on opportunities. And I create an opportunity for that person. Because the opportunity is our deal. It's the transaction, the file for my old school agents out there. The file that is going to be this transaction. And so we come in and I'm going to set some of the details that you need to be able to set as well. So this top section, you're not going to have to really mess with except for opportunity type. You're going to say listing, buyer, landlord, or tenant. We're going to work with a buyer this time. You can see it automatically puts in the Wicked Witch as the client. I can add a co-buyer as well. Maybe the Wicked Witch is buying the home with one of the monkeys, and I want to put the monkey in there as the co-buyer. Sorry, I don't know the real name of the monkeys. Husband and wife, mom and daughter, right? Any situation where there's 2 people on the contract, you want both of them in here. Then, now here's an important point. If you don't have a contact in command, you can't create an opportunity for them, okay? And so for instance, command's still pretty smart. If I put in there evil monkey as the co-buyer, do you see how it says no options? But it gives me the option to just create the contact right now, evil monkey. And I can just create it right here if I need to. And I can put in his address, evilmonkey@gmail.com. I bet that's a real email. I shouldn't put that in there. We'll put con in there. Phone number, we can put that in. The opportunity name, I usually just remove the buyer name or the word buyer. I know they're a buyer because they're going to be in the buyer section. And so I usually put the Wicked Witch and Evil Monkey. I like to put the names of the people that I'm working with because that's a little easier for me. And it's not tied to an address or anything like that because it's a buyer. Now you can also tag your opportunity because you have contact tags that organize your contacts. You have opportunity tags that organize your opportunities. Well, here, the Wicked Witch is actually a first-time home buyer. That house blew away in Kansas. She was renting. And now she's still renting, and she's a first-time home buyer. So I label her FTHB, first-time home buyer. She's also pretty well off, and she's looking for a luxury home. And so I add these labels to help me organize my opportunities. Now, this last section, you're going to see some stuff that you might not have the information for. Estimated close date. This is just for your reference. It's not going to set anything in there. Time frame, same thing. It's nice to have in there. It's not needed. You see, there's no asterisk next to time frame. You can put it in. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to really even do anything except give you that information. Budget does not need to be put in. I always put it in. And if I don't know, I just go with a default 500,000. I can change it later. This has no bearing on the actual home they buy. This is just so that command can do some cool calculations about telling me how much my pipeline is going to pay me and how much it probably will pay me. There's a potential and a probable income that it calculates based on these numbers. Commission rate. You have to put a number in here. And because this video is being recorded and other agents outside my market center or my office might hear this, I cannot tell you what number to put in here. I'm just going to tell you a number must be inserted in this section. My advice is to choose a number and just use the same thing every time if you don't know what it's going to be. And with buyers, you really truly don't know what your commission is going to be really until the contract to buy and sell. Right, Isaac? Losing, man. I got to bring you in here. And so I'm going to put in a number just to satisfy the condition. And then here's the important part is the last two options. Where are they going to go in the pipeline? Are they going to go in that cultivate section that we saw in the path? Are they going to go in the appointment section? Or are they going right to active? Now, most people you're going to put into cultivate, but sometimes this moves fast. You ever get a call like those amazing calls where they're like, hey, I need you to come over today to list my home. Like, you got to come today. I got to sell it now. And you're like, oh, and you schedule the appointment, go on the appointment, get the contract signed, and have your agency agreement all done in the same day. Sometimes that happens. You don't have time to go into command and do this. That's okay. You can start them in appointment if you need to. You can start them in active if you need to. But we're going to start them in cultivate so y'all can see the full system. And then inside cultivate, command has broken it down. Remember when I said your system needs to be robust enough to handle somebody out 12 months or somebody out 1 month. And you see here, you're going to see in your commands, it says watch, nurture, and hot. You're not going to have the months like I do. You're not going to have the financial hold section because I've customized my pipeline to have those. And I'm going to show you how to do that later. So we're going to put this person in nurture, right? They're 6 months out. So they're in the 4 to 9 month section, which is what my system is set up to do. And I hit create opportunity. And now I've gotten that person who's risen their hand. Uh-oh. What does not, why does it? There we go. It's just moving slow. I'm like, what is going on? It is exactly the same thing. Isaac just said it's like having a whiteboard. And what he means by that is you'll see in some agents' offices, they have these big whiteboards with these grids on them that have their names down one side and a buyer section, listing section. And those are great. I learned how to run the business on a whiteboard as well. We didn't have command. The problem is you can't take that whiteboard with you. It only exists at the office or at the home office. Command, all this opportunity stuff is in command mobile as well. You can do it in your phone, yeah. Yeah. You can view it. You can see your whole pipeline. You can create them, view them, check tasks off, create tasks. Opportunities is almost fully accessible from here. There are a few things you can't do on the phone, but it's stuff you probably wouldn't do because it's more like building your system, not one-off kind of things you do for somebody. Most of that stuff you can do through the phone. So now, take a look at the Wicked Witch's opportunity section. You'll notice that there's now a 1 next to the opportunities, and that's because we have the opportunity here. And so to go into the Wicked Witch opportunity, I click on the name. Now, you can also go into the pipeline. So I'm going to walk into the pipeline. We can go in through the contact like you're seeing on the screen, or we can click on the 2 hand shaking to the left. And this opens up the opportunity pipeline where you see listings, you see buyers, and you see leases at the bottom. And if I put the Wicked Witch into Cultivate, I'm going to click on Cultivate. And there she is in my nurture section. You can see Elmer's in there. SpongeBob is being nurtured in my watch category. But if I want to get into the opportunity, I just click on that greenish text. And now I'm in the details. Come on, command, don't play with me. There we go. And you can see these are all the details that we've added so far. Looks kind of empty, right? And it is for now. And one of the things that I want you to see is right up here. Do you see this task? Task 0 of 5. Because if you're looking at your command, you're going to see task 0 of 0 because you have not added in your checklist that we're going to get to in a minute. But you can see in here, I have my checklist built and it's pretty basic. Somebody who's 6 months out, I'm going to create a monthly buyer check-in task. I check in with them monthly. I don't put call or text because I want the freedom to do whatever is appropriate for that client. Some people I'm going to call every time. Some people I'm going to text every time. Some people it's a combination. But I'm going to set it so that every month I do it. Full contact information. I need to have all of their information so I can provide the most value. So I make sure I have a task to do so. Adding a neighborhood to the contact. That's what enables me to use the neighborhood nurture. We have to set the neighborhood. If we add their address, it automatically sets the neighborhood. That's a little shortcut. Share the KW app. I got to put that on there. That might be one of my monthly follow-ups, but I just want to make sure at some point in this time period, I'm sharing my KW app. And then this one's a good trick to know. Is this property in the proper stage? And you can see, do you see how these already have due dates on them? Because Command has a cool system called smart due dates that I can say these tasks are due based on the opportunity key dates. And the key dates these are working off of, you can see, on the opportunity created date. So when I create the opportunity, these tasks become due. This last one, though, you can see it says due later because I have it set for 2 months after I create the opportunity in here, because that's about the timeline when I'm going to say, well, do they need to move over to hot or do they need to stay here in nurture because their timeline's not January anymore? It's now the summertime, right? So then it's like, oh, they're going to stay here. Or worst case scenario, they say, Steven, I'm so sorry. We can't buy. We just spent all our money on a health bill and we don't have a down payment anymore. We're going to have to keep renting. And I go, I'm so sorry. And then I archive the opportunity, right? I don't delete the contact. Contact's still there, but I get rid of this transaction because it's not going to happen if they tell me they can't buy. Like, how do I archive a transaction? Oh, simple. I'll get to it in a moment. Let me finish here and then I'll show you because it's just a click. So in here, I have my tasks. These tasks show up in your task manager. And what I mean by that is right over here on the side of the screen, right here, tasks. That's your task manager. I'm going to open it up in a new tab so we can talk about it. And you already see, here's my Wicked Witch tasks already in here. You see some older ones for Wade Wilson in here as well, and Chewbacca. But do you see the little handshaking the handshaking right there in the link too? That tells me it's from an opportunity opposed to a contact task, which looks like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I have any contact tasks in here right now. They're all the same. That's okay. But you'll see a little person there, and that tells you that's a task from contacts instead of a task from opportunities. But you can filter these in here. You can do all of that really easy and smooth to use. All right, back to the pipeline. So now we're here with the Wicked Witch. We've created the opportunity. Now let's fast forward. We've done some follow-up. It's now September. We've now seen that task that said, is this person in the right stage? And turns out they're on track. They're saying, Steven, we're still planning to buy in January. I go, great. And now I'm going to move them. Look how easy it is to move them through the pipeline. No erasing the board and changing stuff. Just click, hold, and drag. And now you'll see there's a whole new set of tasks that I have for hot buyers. And you'll notice there's some repetition. And I want you to think about why I would have the full contact information in hot. I have it in nurture. And guess what? It's in watch too. Well, I don't have my watch ones in there, but you're going to put it in watch. And I want you to think about it. We'll answer that question later, but I want you to think about why would I have some of the repeating ones in there for each of these stages. So we're in here now. We have seen, and this one says follow up weekly, because when they're hot, I want to be talking to them even more. If they're less than 3 months away, I'm going to be communicating with them quite a bit. Maybe it's weekly for you. Maybe it's bi-weekly. Maybe it's monthly. Again, you choose. Your business is going to be built off of these systems. And if you don't know, start trying some stuff and find what works for you. Try it weekly. And then if you feel like you're bugging them too much, go to bi-weekly. This is a process for you to figure out. There's no concrete, this is how you do it to convert everybody all the time. I just talked to a 30-year veteran about this class when I was planning, and I asked her, hey, how do you run your pipeline? And she said, well, number one, I always know their motivation and their timeline up front. And then every time I talk to them, I make sure to reference the conversation before that we had and why I'm calling them now about that conversation. And I said, well, Allie, do you have like a system of when you call? And she says, no, it's purely based on the client, what they need. And we build our tasks every time from one phone call and then set a task. Make that call, set a task. Make that call, set the next task. And for a lot of you, if you're new to tasks and running a task list and having that discipline, because it takes discipline to get those done, if you're new to it, I recommend doing it that way to start. Because through that, if you do that for a year, you're going to start seeing, gosh, every time I set a follow-up for 3 weeks from our first conversation, then I send them an email, then I send them a text in 3 weeks, and your system starts to come out naturally, and then you define it. And so if you're new to this, start small. Don't overwhelm yourself. Really, your first action step will be use opportunities. Don't worry about the checklists. Just get them in a place that you can have time to connect with them. Because now, once they're in the hot category and I make that phone call in December and I say, hey, we're still on track. Wonderful. I think we should sit down and meet. And that's when I click and drag the Wicked Witch and the Evil Monkey up to appointment. And you see they disappear from Cultivate, and I click on appointment and there's the Wicked Witch. And to be honest with y'all, I don't use scheduling. I don't normally use this stage. I normally just put them right into scheduled because I usually call them, schedule the appointment, and that's when I move them. I usually don't need to have somebody in between a scheduling period, right? Normally, I don't use that. You might. I think there might be a use case for that, but personally, I don't move them until I've scheduled the appointment anyway. And if I don't schedule the appointment, I leave them in Cultivate. And so I don't use the scheduling piece. You might, but you can get rid of it as well if you don't want it either. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But once I schedule the appointment, there's an important caveat here. You need to add one piece of information that's very important. We scroll down to these key dates and we hit the pencil because what we want to do is we need to put in the appointment scheduled date. Not the day of the appointment, but the day I scheduled it. So if we're in September, let's say I called them on the 10th of September and we scheduled the appointment for the 12th. So I put the 10th in as the day I scheduled it. Here's why it's important. This is how Command tracks your appointment set. So if you put your goals into Command, it will tell you how many appointments you need to set to meet that goal. And if you want that tracked, you have to put that date in. That's how Command knows that you set an appointment. It's by adding a date to the opportunity appointment scheduled section. How does it know that you held the appointment? What do you think we're going to do for that? Yeah. When we hold the appointment on the 12th, oops, not 7/12. Let's go to September 12th. When we hold that appointment, that's when we put in that date because that tells us that we held the appointment and tells Command to track an appointment held. The next section is Agreement 1. What agreement is this? The agency agreement, that's correct. We put in our agency agreement date signed because that's how Command tracks those. Now, contract date, what contract is that talking about? That's the contract to buy and sell. That's the date when that's signed, and the close date is when that date is in there. These two, contract date and close date, your TC is going to put those in. They're in a whole different process, and you won't even know those dates until you go under contract anyway. But those dates will be added in the under contract stage. So you don't need to worry about those. The only ones you want to worry about before are appointment scheduled, appointment date, and Agreement 1. Put those dates in because we can set our tasks to build off of these dates that say, okay, the day after I schedule the appointment, I want a reminder to build out my agency agreement for that client. I'm going to build out the save search for them. I'm going to build out the buyer presentation that I'm going to do for that specific client. I'm going to have all those tasks in there so I can make sure it gets done. Because if you're sitting there thinking, gosh, Stephen, I don't need all those reminders. Well, it's because you only have 2 people who are actively doing this stuff. Imagine if you had 15 people trying to get qualified, trying to buy a home, all at different schedules and times. This is the tool you need to handle all of that volume. And so we are now here in the appointment stage, and then let's keep it rolling. Let's go back in here. We're in appointment. Now the Wicked Witch has met with us. We move them over to kept. And you can see I have a whole list of items in my kept. Set up MLS search, discuss agency and buying process, email buyer packet of necessary. I think I'm missing a word there. Do you have a copy of the pre-approval? That's something I need to make sure I have for all buyers, right? Especially after we met. Do we have a pre-approval? Because if we don't, well, I better be working the lender stuff as well and getting them to a lender, or if they're buying cash, that may be a different situation. You see, share the KW app again right there. And we move them through. We go through all of these, and you can see I have some of my smart due dates firing off for us. Here, these are built on appointment date. That on the appointment date, make sure to set communication expectations, which for me means, hey, I take Sundays off. If you call me or talk to me on a Sunday, you probably won't hear from me back again until Monday morning. That's my day with my family, but I set the expectation. I did this for years. And do people call me on Sunday?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But every time when you set expectations and you tell them up front, hey, this is my day with my family. It's the only day I take off the whole week. I ask for your respect. They'll still, Stephen, we just saw this house. It's so perfect for us. Can we please come see it? Am I going to go show them that house? Absolutely. I'll make the exception. I won't let it be the rule. That's the key. I set expectations, but I'm going to make an exception if I need to. And and this is how it sounds too. When you call them and you go, hey, it sounds like you guys want to see a home. Stephen, we're so sorry. We're so sorry we bugged you on a Sunday. We know it's your day with your kid. We're so sorry, but we think this is the perfect home. And we go, I get it. It looks like the perfect home. Let's go and see it and be ready to write a contract, right? Because I'm not wasting my time on a Sunday. If we're going to see a home, we're writing a contract on that home. Because if they don't think that they want to write a contract, we can wait till Monday. I'm not using my time off that I've given myself for a maybe. But if they're in, let's go. I'll make that happen. I'll make the exception for them. And I'll make sure that they know I'm making an exception for them so that they feel special. But set expectations, that's just one example of things that I need to make sure happens with everybody. And if I don't check that for somebody, I need to call them and tell them. But for me, my buyer presentation was so on lock that I knew I did it every time. Referral request, testimonial request, all those were already being done for me. But these are just examples to help you. And so now they've signed our agency agreement. The Wicked Witch and the Evil Monkey are now our clients. And when they sign the contract for agency, that's when they move to active. And in active for me, I use searching and showing. Searching is I'm sending them properties. Showing means we're actually going to see properties and going into homes. And that's you'll find that some people will be searching for properties for a while until they're actually ready to go. That goes to Isaac's. Hey, sign the agency now, even though you're not going to buy till the fall, so I can start working for you now, right? That's the line that you use. And then I can leave them in searching, put them on a search. And when the time is right, when we want to go see homes in a couple of months, that's when we move them to showings. And then the process moves forward. My advice, if you're using a TC, if you're creating opportunities before under contract, tell your TC you're doing that. Otherwise, they're going to create a duplicate. I've seen it over and over again. TCs do not think agents use the rest of this system because most agents don't. And so if you are the professional that uses your pipeline, tell your TC that you've already created the opportunity or that you're already going to have them in there so that they can find them and take it from there. Otherwise, they're just going to create a duplicate. So little advice there. I tell you that from making the mistake myself. Too many times. Okay, so now they move to active, and that is the same process we just saw from open house capture all the way to close, or we didn't go to close, all the way to under contract at this point, but that's what it looks like in the system. Oh, too far back. There we go. And so now you've seen what it looks like in general. You've seen what it looks like in command. And now we need to start building your system. And I've given you this little opportunity checklist planner. And what you're going to do, we're going to start off by this planner is generic. Generic as in you can plan any part of command with this. First thing you'll want to do is select which are you doing, buyer or seller. We're going to talk buyer today. So circle buyer. And what phase are you going to organize here? We're going to do cultivate. And then cultivate, we had 3 stages in cultivate. You saw 4 on mine. So if you need more, you can build more. We're going to show you how to do that after we write down some of your system. Then you need to name your stages: watch, nurture, hot. I suggest you use the defaults here. I think they're really appropriate. I personally am too dumb to just have watch, nurture, hot. I need the timelines. Right? I add in those titles where I'm going to show you how to do that as well, because I need the timelines in there, because otherwise I'll screw it up. I'll start mixing things up and people will be different timelines and different stages and it won't be organized, because that's how my brain works. Your brain might work differently. You know, you could have 2 ready to go and working on it. You could have 2 simple stages that maybe works better for you. You don't need watch, nurture, hot. You can use what works for you. Simplify it. If you're like, no, I'm not going to do 12 months out. I'm only going to put people in here who are 6 months out. Allie, the agent I mentioned earlier, 30-year vet, they only go to 6 months. If you're not going to buy or sell in 6 months, they don't put you in the pipeline yet. They're going to keep following up with you, and her follow-up is amazing. That's why she's been in the business for 30 plus years, is because she's really good at following up. So she knows she's going to convert that person. And so she uses a 6-month timeline. I suggest you use 12. I've used 12 for most of my career as well. Now, we name them, and then we want to start building in the action items that need to happen in watch. So we build out some action items. Get all contact info. Rude. Create touch tasks. If that's texting every 3 weeks or calling every month, create some touch tasks. Bi-weekly neighborhood nurture. And then move, extend, or archive. That's my little notification to tell me, hey, is this person in the right place? Should they move forward? Should they stay where they're at? Or should I delete them? Oh, Isaac, I didn't show you how to archive an opportunity. Check it out. So number 1, they cannot be in under contract stage to do this. If they're already under contract, you can't do this. You just have to move them back to active. But this is it. Here, archive opportunity. So this is, I went to opportunities, right? The pipeline. I'm going to go into, and then I go into the stage that I want to be in, or excuse me, phase, active, wherever that is. And then I find their card and I click the 3 dots and I can hit archive opportunity, which it says, are you sure? And then if you hit archive, it goes away. And you can find those in your all opportunities section as well. Once you archive them, they're not deleted and gone. You can even restore them to bring them back to the pipeline if things change after you archive. So very dynamic, easy to follow, easy to use. Okay, so here we go. Do these look similar that I've put up here on the screen? Watch, nurture, and hot. No, when I set the appointment, that's when I move them into appointment. I move them to active. Those are my triggers. So first trigger to get into Cultivate is saying I want to buy or sell in some time in the next year, next 12 months. Trigger to move them to appointment is I've set an appointment with them. Trigger to move them to active is they've signed the agreement. Trigger to move them to under contract is they go under contract, right? So those are my trigger points across the pipeline. Now, I asked you all earlier, why would I do the same things in watch, nurture, and hot? Why are they listed in all 3 of these? What was it? No, not that. Exactly. Is everyone going to start and watch? Is everyone going to contact me 9 to 12 months before they think they want to buy? No. Sometimes they're going to call you a week before they want to buy. Sometimes they're going to call you a year before they want to buy. Sometimes it's 6 months. This is what I mean by having a robust system. And if they enter into my pipeline and watch, I need to make sure that I do all this stuff. But if they enter my pipeline and nurture, I still need to make sure all this stuff happens. And so you'll see some duplicates across your checklist that you'll see on your paper in here. And the conversation that we had earlier around what are some action items that you can do for buyers. These are where you put those action items that you want to do. It might just be this stuff. Put them on the neighborhood nurture, create a touch task, and get all their contact information. That might be it for you to start. And that's fine. Then you might add in some stuff where you might put in send a thank you note, personalized thank you note 1 week after they tell you that they want to buy, right? You could put in all kinds of all the stuff we talked about before for buyers. That's what you put in here. And so spend a couple of minutes jotting down some ideas, what you see on the board, what you see in the conversation that we had earlier. Go ahead and start putting some stuff down, because after this, you're going to see how to put this into command. Also, I've put up some more ideas on the screen here to get your brain thinking more. All this different stuff. And then I have 2 smart plans that I love as well for these situations. And we'll go through a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to throw these up here so you can get some more ideas of different things that you could be doing as action items in this time period. Here, I'll get I do got a big head. Oh, yeah. So now, before we get into some of those smart plans, you're going to do this same thing for, where's my slide? Here we go. You're going to do the same thing after you finish your cultivate section. You'll write out your appointment section. You might need a new one of these, and I have plenty here for you. And you also have these pages in the resource pack, so you can print them later if you're not ready for them now, which I'm not expecting you to be, but I wanted to let you know that this is the next step, is then you're going to design your appointment scheduled and held tasks. And like I said at the beginning, remember, I've shared with you these resources that have fully filled out sections for cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and close. They're full on systems. Well, I'll talk more about it in a little bit, but I just want to mention that. But let me mention these 2 smart plans, because these are already in your account. They're written by KW, and we have the midterm nurture and the long-term nurture. Too long didn't read, TDLR. You guys know that saying? I didn't think so. Probably the wrong crowd for that. You guys aren't nerdy enough or internet active enough. But simple way to think about these: midterm nurture, 4 touches a month for 3 months. Long-term nurture, 4 touches a month for 6 months. So let's break down those touches. First thing it does, why I love it, midterm nurture, first thing, it puts them on the biweekly neighborhood nurture for you. So you add them to the midterm nurture, first step, and add them to the neighborhood nurture, sends that first email to them that tells them the neighborhood stats and the current listings in the neighborhood. 15 days later, I get a reminder to call them. 15 days after that, 14 days after that, command will automatically send this text message for me if I have Twilio. If I don't, it just gives me a reminder to send this text message. Now, these text messages, they're okay, I would say. Okay, as in, I would edit them. This is a canned text from KW. It may sound like you, it may not. It may be appropriate for your systems, it may not be. You might want to edit these text messages. If you're using Twilio and they're automatically going out, go in and look at the text. But then watch what it does. It says repeats 2 times. So it does that, then it starts over. Well, it already has them on the SmartPlan, so it skips that step. So I'm not going to get another reminder until it's time to call them again the next month. So it's reminding me to call them once a month. And then it's also texting them once a month, but it's sending them 2 emails a month as well. That's the midterm nurture, does that for 3 months straight. Does that sound pretty perfect for parts of your pipeline, right? But this might be different depending on, an open house lead. I might write a midterm nurture for open house leads and a midterm nurture for referral leads, because those messages are going to probably sound different in those cases. But if you don't do open houses, don't build an open house one, right? If you don't get referrals, don't build a referral one, because you want to build it for your business. And you can customize these as much as you want, except you can't change the structure because KW wrote these plans. If you find a smart plan in the library that's not written by KW, you can edit the whole thing. No limitations, but there's 10 plans from KW, these 2 being 2 of them. You can edit the actual text message, but you can't change the structure of these. But you can also build them out, and I can show you how to build these as well. Nothing special on these. Long-term nurture, here's the difference. It's the monthly neighborhood instead of the bi-weekly. So they're only getting 1 email a month, then a reminder to call, just like here. But then they're getting a second email where it says send value email. And notice that it says create touch task. It's telling me to do this. It's not sending the email itself. And this is important because this is how you bring value and personalization. It's not sending a canned email like it's going to do with the text. I'm going to write that email. I'm going to make it personalized to them to bring the value in the moment for them at that point. And I get a reminder to do so. Then it sends the same text. Hey there, just wanted to see. Hey there, I know your real estate needs are farther away. And then it repeats 5 times. So it's a 6-month plan of an email, phone call, email, text, email, phone call, email, text for 6 months. Great structure for your nurtures. Right? This is high level stuff, and this is why we have them built. These are wonderful, and you could probably even say, well, wouldn't these work for other people, not people who have just risen their hand? Could I use this for my open house leads to build a relationship with them? Absolutely. This is the perfect relationship building plan with new leads. And so just a couple of extra spice for y'all. How are we doing on time? We're doing good on time. Right on. So we have some checklists. How are we feeling about our checklist that we wrote then? Did we add anything else from other than what I put on the screen? Did we add some flavor for your own spice? I hope so. All right. So Isaac, now's the time to pay attention again. Let's demo how do you put these into command. So if I come back into command, an important vocabulary here is, do you see these 5 across the top? Cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, closed. Does any deal not go through that process? All of them do. Those 5 things you cannot change. They will always be cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, closed. What you can change are the stages below. These, they're called phases. The phases of a transaction. Down below, searching, showing, legacy, those are the stages of the phase. You can edit the stages. So take a look. Let's go back to Cultivate. And then this is the key button. When I'm in Cultivate, I'm going to click on this button up here at the top of the screen that says Stages and Checklists. And this is where I can edit. So here, do you see how hot doesn't have the timeline? Well, let me fix that. I'm going to hit the pencil to the right. I'm going to say hot is 3 months or less. And then now I have all of my timelines in there the way I like it. You can move these around by just clicking and holding, and I can move them. If you want to have financial hold, do y'all know what I mean by financial hold? Anybody ever have a buyer that they're like, I want to buy this month, and you send them to the lender and they're like, I have a 300 credit score. They're on a financial hold for me. Those are the people that, because when I was full-time, that was most of my clients. There was a lot of people in that boat. So I just made a stage for them, because those people, I don't need to talk to all the time. I don't need to have them, I'll sign an agency with them up front, but they're not going to buy unless they fix their credit. So I'm just going to set specific tasks to these people that are usually around credit, down payment, the things that hold people back financially from buying a home. These are in Cultivate, because these ones, I may meet with them, I may not. Maybe. The financial hold is for the people that I'm hoping for, but I don't really think they might make it happen. So I just give them a stage so they don't clog up my other stuff. Because if you work with a lot of people in that area, you end up having a lot of those financial holds happening. And you don't want that clogging up your normal pipeline of business that's ready, willing, and able. And so you can add those in by clicking add stage. You can delete any stage by deleting and hitting the trash can over to the right side. That's how you adjust your stages. But do you notice we don't have any of the appointment stuff in here, right? Well, that's because we have to go to the appointment phase. So if I hit back to buyers and I switch to appointments and then I hit the stages and checklist button, now you see I'm adjusting the appointment stages and checklists. But let's talk about the checklist. What you just wrote is what goes right here. What you just wrote are the checklist items, but you guys wrote yours for Cultivate. So let's get to Cultivate. And you wrote these checklist items that are going in here, right in here. Where this is where you can come in and build out your system. Where you click on the checklist, 0 of 0 is what it probably says on yours. And then all you have to do is hit add task and then start building out that task. And you can see I already have some in here. And remember, you can set these as smart due dates, not a specific date of when it's going to happen, but a smart due date that's based on the other dates, like appointment scheduled, opportunities been created, appointment held. These smart due dates can be really handy so that the tasks automatically update. Because if you don't put the dates in there, the tasks will create themselves, but they'll have no due date. You got to go in and set all the due dates, which if you have 11 items, it's kind of a pain. And if I can, some of them, you just have to. You're not going to know when it's supposed to happen until you have more information. So you just have to pick a date. But some of them, like send the KW app and have client log in, I can do that the day after they told me that they want to buy or sell. I can send them that link and give them a little instruction just like that and add in my tasks. This is where you want to be. If you are nervous or this seems a little intimidating to take all this into command and build tasks, let's do this together. Schedule a one-on-one with me and we can talk about this together and really get this part of your pipeline dialed in, which will help you with the next part and the next part. And if you want to sit down with me for all of that, that's what my schedule is there for. Get online to my Calendly and schedule some time with me. I'd love to sit down and talk to you about building out your pipelines and getting really systematic of knowing when your communication happens. That's the key here. Know when it's going to happen, know when it's going to happen next. But that is all you have to do to edit these stages. And you're going to find what works, what doesn't work. And it's real simple to come in here and delete a task. Just remember, anything that you put into these default checklists, any opportunity I make from this point forward will get these tasks when they get dropped into those sections. Watch, nurture, hot. They will get all those tasks. And you want to check them off. Like I said, you're going to need to make time to make this happen. Sir. Good question. So Isaac is asking about this right here, client update. So what the client update is, first, it's turned off by default for all of your opportunities. You have to turn it on. And when you turn it on, you're going to set a time when you want the client update to happen. It's a time of day. So normally you put it at like 6 p.m. because here's what happens. if I check off this client update box, what happens when I go in and I check this task off in my checklist? So I go into that opportunity for the Wicked Witch and I have the client update turned on. When I check that task off and any other task I check off for that person that day, they get an email at the time I picked, 6 p.m. They'll get an email that says, here's what's been done for you today. And it gives them the task. It'll say full contact information, email, phone. Like obviously that's not a good one for client update. But when this is great for your sellers and you're under contract or active process, because the seller doesn't know all the work that you do to get their home ready to list. But if you have a checklist that says order staging, order photography, order house cleaner to come in, and you check all those off in a day, and then that evening they get an email that says, here's all the stuff that was done for you today. Photography was ordered, staging was ordered, right? They see all of the behind the scenes when they get these client update emails. And so it's not something you want to put for every task. I've even seen agents make specific tasks that are for the client updates because they're written in a way that it's more for the client to read. And then their tasks that are not client update ones are written for the agent to be able to read. And so it can get a little complex. I would say client updates are kind of level 3 opportunity pipeline usage. So if you're at level 1 or 2, let's talk about this when you're comfortable with the tasks that you've already built. And then we can talk about client updates and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, and how to manage this to bring the most value to your people. Great question, sir. All right, so we talked about that. Resources. So first thing I want you to notice in here, when you scan that QR code that I'll put up on the screen again, and I'll drop the link in the chat again, just in case anybody doesn't have it. Go back one. You're going to see example 1 and example 2. This is the part that I see agents miss all the time. Look down at the bottom here. There are multiple tabs in each of these spreadsheets. You have a buyer side and a seller side, just like your pipeline, and it gives you both of them. And y'all, these are money. These are so good. And you're probably not going to do everything in their list because theirs is really high level, but it's a great starting point to get ideas and see what successful agents are using. Like I said, this one's from another state, so you're going to see some language that doesn't align with our jargon in our area, but you'll get a good enough idea. Monthly neighborhood nurture, phone, email, SMS for 6 months, right? All of this, they use the long-term nurture. And then over here, check this out. KW's example has buyers, listings, leases, and suggested tags for your opportunities. So really, really great resources I want you to look at so you can see a little bit more built out pipelines, because this is Cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and closed. All five phases broken down into the stages as well. There's a lot more info in those files than these pictures let you believe, but these are money. These are where you're going to, if you want to see what people are actually using for their business, the example 1, that is from another market center tech trainer out in the East Coast named George Kelly. He's the one who wrote that and runs a team that I think closes over 100 deals a year. These are high level people using these system at the highest of levels, and you have their system. It's not going to be a one-to-one match for yours. Just remember that. You're not going to be able to just put all this stuff into command, because you'll put it in, the task shows up and you go, what the hell is that? What do you mean get email of lead? Who's the lead? And you're confused. But when you write them and you know what's in there, that's where you find success in a system, because you're like, oh yeah, I know I need to do this. I put it in there because I want to make sure I do this. I'm going to send them the KW app. I'm going to prepare my buyer presentation, whatever it needs to be. Yes. Here, where do I have it? I'm trying to think of, I thought I had it on this screen, but I know I have it on that. Oh, there we go. And I will email this link out as well to everybody who registered. So if you're worried about getting it from phone to computer, you'll have the link tomorrow. I'll be emailing everybody. So yep, I mentioned the videos as well in the resource file. Super, super handy videos, articles. The articles in there are all from answers.kw.com. That is our article base. so much great information in there, but so much information in there. It's kind of a pain to go in there if you don't know what you're doing. So that's why I've brought those articles right to you of where you need them. If you don't know where to start at the top of this list. Get started with opportunities in that KW Answers article. It goes over a lot of the stuff we talked about today. So it's a great refresher. And then as you go down the line, it's going to help you set up and build out these opportunities if you need some additional support after today's class, after watching this video online. And so last but not least, let's answer any questions that may have come up through today. If you're on Zoom, you can put it in the chat. You can unmute and ask a question that way. In person, you can just go ahead and raise your hand and I will have you share out any questions that you have about opportunities, pipelines in general, tasks, things to do, things not to do, whatever questions you have, bring them forward.
Talk to the lender. So how do I put those, like, when they still have to talk to the lender, obviously, because you're not gonna have to talk to the lender, when they're 6 months or more out. Yeah.
They're in Cultivate.
They're
Yep.
still under Cultivate.
Yep. And I'd probably put them in nurture, right? Because that's the word there is pretty explanatory, right? Like you need to nurture those people a little bit more. You need to nurture them through the pre-approval process. You need to nurture them to get a little bit more ready. And so, yeah, I would say that's a perfect, put them into nurture. If they're working on getting a pre-approval now, and maybe they get pre-approved and they're ready to go in a week, you don't have to go from nurture to hot to appointment set. You can just go from nurture to appointment set, right? So very flexible. If the timeline changes, Command's cool with that.
And actually put them in that financial hold.
Yeah, if they're waiting to, or if they need to do some stuff because the lender's like, hey, your credit score is 300, like you're, or, you know, you qualified for 125,000 and unless you want to move to Pueblo, you're not going to find a home in town, or you can get a parking space downtown for that price. But, you know, there's different things that, or maybe they're waiting to get the 2 years of W-2 income because they've only been at their job for 18 months, or, you know, there's so many different things where sometimes it's difficult, sometimes it's just time. And that's why I have that financial hold. That just tells me those people are in that category. And for me, if I had one of those a year, I probably wouldn't have a financial hold category, right? But when I was doing this, I was like, every week I was finding somebody that was like, I want to buy, but I can't, right? Because this is 2020. 2019, 2018, 2017, when I'm a full-time agent. And so the market was way different and faster, right? It moved way faster. Yeah. Yep. Well, unless, you know, it's all location. I always tell buyers, there's 3 parts of a home that you care about: location, what it actually is, like the quality of it, and price. You get to pick 2. That's it. You don't get all 3 because it's either going to be in the right place, in the condition you want, but the price isn't right. It's too much. Or the price is perfect, the home is perfect, but the location is not where you want to be. It's in Pueblo, right? Like you can get a badass house in Pueblo for 300 grand, but do you want to live in Pueblo? Right? So they get to pick 2 of the 3. And that's setting expectations. That's a conversation, that little line I say, there's 3 things you care about, blah, blah, blah. I said every buyer appointment, because then they go see homes and they go, gosh, Steven, you were right. I love this house and I hate the area and the price is right. Or this house is the right price. It's in the right area, but it's a dump. We need to put 50 grand into this for it to be livable for us, right? They get to pick 2. If they get all 3, that's the jackpot. It's rare. It might happen. We'll try our best to make it happen. But I set expectations about getting 2 of those things that they want. It's very difficult. And in this market, it's difficult to get even 2, right? The house you want and like in a location you like, or the house you want and like for the price you want, or the price and the location you want, but the house is dumpy. Like this market's tough, but it's getting easier for buyers. Buyers are getting more options. Buyers are getting the advantage. And we've seen that in not commissions, what do they call them? Concessions. We've seen that concessions have been rising over the last few months. And that is showing that buyers are truly swinging the power back to the side of the buyers in this market. Good questions. What else? What other questions? Isaac, you don't have a question? So rare. Yes. Good. Honestly, that was the point. I wanted to show you the full power of the tool so you can see it into your future of what it can do. But for most of you, you're going to start with the action item number 1 up on the screen. Start adding opportunities to your pipeline. You don't need checklists right now. Like I said, if you're new or even just new to being systematic, start adding people to opportunities when they raise their hand. And then talk to them about it, schedule your follow-up. Talk to them again, schedule your follow-up. Talk to them again or send the emails, but have a plan as best you can right now. If you don't have the emails and the text set up, that's okay. Because what converts people are conversations, and make those happen. So you can email them throughout that time so that when they do want to buy, they call you. Newsletters, event invites, neighborhood nurtures for the neighborhoods they want to live in.
Like, I feel like if you could buy today, where would you go?
Yep.
One, trying to figure out a time, right? And so it would end the conversation with, "Hey, great, but I know you say you're 2 or 3 years away, right? But like, I feel like, like, you know, like, let me get your email so I can send you some stuff, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that in words, but that's where.
Yep, exactly. Right. And it's the same thing because, you know, somebody looking to buy or sell in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I want them on my database program, right? My 72 touch, my 36 touch, whatever it is. I want their email and their phone number. So, because those people are the ones that send you referrals all the time because you treated them like they were worth spending time with instead of being like, oh, you're 2 years out, call me then, right? Because so many agents do work on that. Like, if you're not qualified, ready, willing, and able now, don't talk to me until you are. But when you treat them like a person and say, hey, let me try and give you as much as I can. I'm going to help. Give me your email, give me your address. I'm going to send you some info regularly. And I'm going to check in with you regularly just to make sure that if anything pops up, we're ready for it. And you let me know if there's anything you're getting that you don't want, right? Or if I can change it with like the neighborhoods, right? And so I'm talking to them like that, and a good story to bring it home. When I was on the Elevate Ave team, we had a buyer that Jose, the team leader, was working. He had been in the like, I want to buy a home phase for 8 years. 8 years he sat in the pipeline and finally closed a home in 2019 with Jose. Here's the kicker. Over those 8 years, Jose closed 12 deals from referrals from that person. Because Jose kept calling him and saying, hey, I know that we tried last month. We haven't been qualified. How are things going? Okay, good. How's the family? How's work, right? You do all the generic relationship building questions. You take your notes and then you call them again. But because Jose was so consistent with that, Jose became that person's realtor. He became that person's real estate professional. So anytime somebody said real estate in that person's family, he was like, here's who you call. Jose Bonilla is the one you go with right here. 12 closings from his referrals because Jose decided to not give up on somebody who kept failing to qualify. And it was more complicated than just financials. You know, this person was an international citizen, so it makes it a little bit more difficult when you don't have social security numbers and things like that. And so there was a lot more difficulty than just that, but everyone knows other people who want to buy and sell homes. And the more relationships you build with people, the more referrals you get in from those people, if you ask for them. And Jose always asked for them, and he received them, made a lot of money. Think about 12 closings over 8 years, how much money that represents in GCI. And so action item number 1, start using opportunities. If this is overwhelming, just start building your pipeline. Start seeing where your business is going in the future. Then start writing your checklist You can use this to write it out. You can use what you did today, or you might come back to this in 3 months of working your pipeline and go, I have a way better understanding of this now that I've had my hands in it. I'm using it. I know exactly what things I want to put in there. And then you do it. And then last, once you write your plan, execute your plan. And the biggest failure I see here is agents don't make time to finish these tasks. They set them, they build their checklist items, and then all of a sudden they have 600 overdue tasks in their task manager because they don't make any time to go do these tasks. And they were just populating because they built them, but never actually made time to do them. So my suggestion I mentioned earlier is have follow-up time. Your lead generation time in the model is from 9 to noon. You have lunch, and then you have follow-up time, and then you have appointment slots. And if you don't have appointments to go on, you're either following up with more people or you're lead generating more. That's the 8-hour day of an agent that builds success, that I've seen over and over again build success. And it's not easy, but I tell you, it is simple to add time blocks to your calendar. And it might not need to be 5 days a week. I was able to get by with 2. I lead generated 6 days a week, but I was doing follow-up twice a week because I only needed about 2 hours, 3 hours a week because I wasn't very good at lead generating, to be honest, when I was new. I was spending a lot of time doing it, not getting a lot of leads, not getting a lot of hands raising. And that was my fault because I wasn't doing the activities to get to those things. I wasn't at KW either at that time. I was at a different brokerage and we didn't get as great as education as I did here. And then things took off a little bit differently once I came to KW. And so that's a great reason for all you online watching this. KW is a great place to be. KW downtown is an even better place to be, in my opinion. I've been licensed here for 7 years and I love this place. They've done so much for my life. And I promise if you stick around at KW downtown, it will change your life as well. Thank you guys for being here today. I would love it if you just took a moment, pull your phones out, scan the evaluation. You're going to pick the class pipeline to profit. And these are all anonymous unless you put your name. I only use your name if you say yes to doing a video testimonial, because if you say yes, I don't know who you are unless you put your name in there. So if you say no to the video testimonial, you can remain anonymous. You can put your name in there if you want me to know that you gave me that review. That's fine too. But I do read all of these. Every time I get them, they adjust my classes, they adjust my teaching, because feedback is the breakfast of champions, in my opinion. And I'm hungry. So please take a moment, scan the code. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you for being here online. Thank you for being here in person. We'll see you all next month.